So today is Wednesday, October the 18th, and we're going to conduct an interview for our 340 lab class here. And a good friend of mine here, mentor, friend, colleague, kind of all in one. He's also, helping me out with another school project here. Can you tell us a little bit of who you are?
I'm Stephen West. I'm a naturopathic doctor and a teacher. I've been teaching for 23 years, and my forte is detox programs and rejuvenation. And I'm a very kind, compassionate guy. I love my work. I love teaching. I love people. And I really am in the most fortuitous time of my life right now. So I have a lot of gratitude in my life and good people around me. I have a great supervisor, and so things are good.
23 years, where were some of that employment taking place at?
That was taking place in Monterey County, that was in southern Butte County, that was in Sonoma County, and here in Mendocino County.
Do you remember the first job you had as an educator?
Oh, absolutely.
And some of the thoughts that went in?
Absolutely. It was 1977-78 school year, and I was hired by a special federal program to teach 1 year and 1 year only. And I don't know if that program exists any longer. In any case, they put me in a K-6 school, and I taught creative writing and poetry. Wonderful.
Was there a particular student that you remember in that first class that kind of either gave you a hard time?
Well, I moved around from class to class. I didn't have my own class.
Right.
So, it's been 40 years.
Right.
So I don't remember any particular kid and, any of that. But I do remember, well, let me hold back. I do remember one kid, and she was the principal's daughter, one of the schools. Little 12-year-old girl that was just bright and sunny and capable, and she just radiated health and vitality and joy, and she was very, very cool.
And so your educational experience consists of what type of schooling, or what schools have you gone to as far as education wise?
Oh, okay. My education was first Chico State in my undergrad work, and then I went back 4 years later to get my California State teaching credential, and then in 88, I went to a program that was a naturopathic school and nutrition and naturopathic school. And that was 88 to 91 to June of 91. And that pretty much completes my education.
Where was the naturopath school at?
Texas, San Antonio, Texas.
San Antonio, Texas.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Let's take a minute, maybe kind of back up a little bit or come forward. But what were some of the things that kind of led you into your career of choice? And how it kind of sounds like it's kind of health or wellness related, or?
Yeah, it's really a dual career.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just a single straightforward career. I've always liked kids, and especially now teaching adults. I now prefer teaching adults than kids. But I don't think there was a defining moment like a kid's 7 or 8 years old, he wants to be a fireman or wants to be a doctor or whatever. It was just something that was a slow sort of development. I think it was after actually I graduated from Chico State. See, I majored in sociology and psychology there. So I didn't have this yearning, I want to be a social worker. Right. That never really arose. Right. But a few years later, it arose that I think I want to get into teaching. Classroom K6, K8 teaching. Right. And so that's when I took that credential program at Chico State.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So were there any, influential or motivational factors up at that time in your life that kind of spearheaded? And we kind of touched on that already, but no real motivational things. Maybe at the time, because it was a different time, of course.
It was a different time. There was a definite need for teachers. It still is. Always seems to be a need for teachers.
Because this is kind of the height of civil rights movement.
Civil rights movement. Well, that was all 60s. So I went through a lot of that self-exploration, civil rights, and got into health. Because part of that people don't talk about so much was this whole new emergence of holistic and alternative health approaches and organic foods, farming, and all of that. So I was part of that in the very late 69 actually, and then 1970, and my investigations into diet and health and nutrition continued on. And little did I know that many years later I'd become professionally involved in all that. But yeah, there was a lot of dynamic movement, both with new educational programs, Montessori, Waldorf. Those were just coming to the forefront. People were investigating new approaches in teaching and education and so forth. And then that, along with my whole interest in health and wellness, all started, I'd say, in the early 70s, that is, yeah.
Okay. All right. And what are some hopes or some aspirations that you have, either early on in your career, kind of mid-career, or now today? Are there any aspirations or motivators or factors, or is there any big project that you've either done or are doing currently that you need to launch or have launched?
Good question, but has nothing to do with this dual career that I've chosen. It has to do with something else that spun off about 17 years ago, and it's men's apparel.
Right.
I had this line of men's shirts, corduroy long sleeve shirts I developed 17 years ago. It was 2001, 16 years ago, and I've yet to really launch them. People have shown a tremendous amount of interest, but they're not mainstream at all. So I have to do something in alternative fashion or maybe online to really launch this line of shirts. But again, that's far and away from anything that have done previously with regard to nutrition or education or what have you.
And as far as your nutrition, are you seeing any clients in that aspect as well? Are you because it the dual career, right?
I'm kind of semi-retired from being a naturopath, although I do see a few patients here and there. Probably going to be seeing one here soon.
Right.
And saw one just fairly recently that lived over in Fort Bragg. So as I meet people, and I gave a workshop here locally at a local church.
Because it kind of sounds like it's a career that you kind of really don't retire from, per se.
Well, in a way, you're right. You're right. Not entirely, because people find out about what you do or did, whether you're semi-retired or not, and they're interested because they have some disorder, or their sister or mother, whomever loved one has a particular disorder, and they want your take on how to deal with it. So that kind of gets more involved, and usually they become a patient.
Right.
So, right. But it's kind of where I want to be, because I don't want to have a full practice. I'm already teaching half-time. I have a 4-day weekend that I absolutely love, and I don't want to get real busy.
And have you seen either an increase or a decrease in the overall health and wellness of the people in this region, or just in our nation as a whole, from the beginning of your career, 70s, up until now, over that 40-year span? Have you seen an increase or a decrease, or what do you kind of think?
Well, there's a big awakening with regards to health and wellness in this country. Worldwide, actually. It's a worldwide phenomenon. Wellness is one of the most used nouns in the world right now, is the word wellness.
Right.
So there's a huge thrust for that, and people that are awakening to alternative approaches, which, interestingly, are the approaches our ancestors had. So we're kind of going back to our ancestral wellness, natural health, healing, growing things on the land, naturally growing them instead of adding pesticides and fungicides and all that. So it's kind of do a bit of a 180 here with regards to health and wellness, going back to the land and health and so forth.
Okay.
So it's been very encouraging, but there's big pushback from the status quo. Right. From big pharma and conventional established practices, health practice, big pushback.
Right. That kind of leads into, our next question. And what are some of the difficulties in the career of your choice, and the clients, that you've seen, and you kind of touched on some of that with kind of mega farming and conglomerization, and maybe some McDonaldization and things of that sort.
Right.
Because then you're up against big money. Right.
And it's not just big money, but that's a major part of it. It's also our conventional thinking that we grew up with. Like a lot of my patients grew up, as most everybody did in this country, feeling, for instance, in cancer, that chemotherapy, radiation, and surgery are the only methods which way we can deal with cancer. And of course, there are major, major pitfalls with that. Because of course chemotherapy not only destroys the cancer but destroys healthy cells and can kill you. So there is a lot of pushback, and there's a lot of this conventional thinking. That's been kind of my job, my mission, if you will, is to take that conventional thinking and add new ideas and new approaches and open up minds and hearts to new ways of thinking about dealing with degenerative disease, for instance.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Interesting. This interview here, and kind of reflecting back on the last 40 years of your life, and what type of experience has this brought up for you, or has this touched on anything for you?
The interview?
Yeah.
Well, it's made me kind of put things in perspective a little bit and kind of look back and say, yeah, this is what I did, this is who I am, this is what I was, where I was going, put things in perspective with regards to timelines.
Right.
And what was I doing 4 years ago, 30 years ago, 20 years ago, my perspectives. And so I think it's nice to be able to reflect on, where it is I was, directions I was moving, and where I am now.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Overall, the experience on a 0 to 10 scale, where would you kind of rate your experience with the interview?
On a 10 scale,
Right.
10 would be absolutely phenomenal, incredible.
Right.
Darn few 10s in my life.
Yeah.
But I would give it an 8 or a 9.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
yeah.
difficult to kind of sum up your entire book of life and not miss chapters or not miss certain phrases without really knowing. And then it's also enlightening to remember people like that first student you mentioned, that principal's student.
Yeah, I can see your face right now.
Because then you go back to that moment and
man,
you rewind, and then in regards to the movements in health and wellness, and because kind of in some cultures the overall theme right now is a lot of people are sick. And when you dedicate your life to healing, when the whole is still sick, sometimes there's a kickback to in regards to your thoughts and things like that.
Well, it was good the question that you had too about how is this affecting you now? You're semi-retired, but are people, how is this going? Because you can never really quit being a naturopathic doctor. And I see people. This is why even in my GED class, I teach some health stuff in it because it's part of education of life and it's what they dearly need, because a lot of these people here are ill, have a lot of symptoms and a lot of issues, health issues that come here, as well as drug issues. And if they have a drug issue, they usually have some kind of other health issue because the drugs tear down the body.
Right, it's sort of this compounding kind of issue.
Right. So I'll show DVDs on health and wellness, and we'll talk about them in my GED. And the GED class is all about education anyway. Right. And so this is just an integral part of the big picture of education.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. All right, Stephen, thank you for thank you for everything, and we're gonna wrap it up here. And this was taken and videoed here in Stephen's in his backyard, and this is his classroom. So this is kind of live in action here. So thank you, and we hope you enjoyed it.
I did. Thank you. It was good.